Most companies starting off with AI plug it into existing workflows. Sure, that increases productivity and efficiency, but you're missing the real opportunity. In this episode, you'll learn about the two big shifts your company needs to make to be truly AI-centric. Let's accelerate your business. Welcome to the AI Accelerator for Business show, brought to you by 0to60.ai, where you get the latest strategies, tactics, and information to get the business benefits from artificial intelligence. My name is Carl Ye. I'm joined by my co-host, Jeff Bradshaw. And today we're going to talk about really two key elements that's so important in terms of AI business adoptions that go beyond the thinking of just attaching AI process or a tool or a solution to your existing process. But these two elements are really important because they take your business from just being adding AI to improve productivity and efficiency to now, hey, move it to more of an AI-centric and at the same time too, elevating your employees.
Well, Carl, it's important because I think we see so often that, we encourage companies to say this shift lets you grow with the team that you have while preparing for an AI powered future. And so, if you do these things, you can really set yourself up for success in the future.
For our business, obviously, for many companies, the first thing that people want to do is, hey, how can AI help us? And they usually go to, oh, this task can be done by AI, right? Because whenever we do our discoveries, we try to say, hey, don't talk about AI. Let's just talk about your processes. But inevitably people go, hey, can AI do this? Can replace this task, this task, this task? Which I think at the start, it's fine, no problems. That's kind of how people get their feet wet. How do I actually use AI in my work? And this is how I do it. But where I want to go is you're not using the full capabilities of AI, right? You're just adapting it to a human workflow. What we're talking about is completely reinventing your workflow, right? So when we meet with clients, we have our recommended AI solutions, but we also have, hey, if you were to take one or two of your main processes and completely break it down, what if this process was started from scratch with AI like AI being either AI was already there or completely revolving around AI? What does that look like? And then you can get its true capabilities, because then you're not trying to just adapt it to essentially what all business processes are, which were made for humans.
Well, and I think we see it all the time where it's like bolting it onto old archaic systems that were kind of human centric. But this kind of goes back to the old line that, 150 years ago, if you would have asked people what they needed, they would have said a faster horse, right? Not a car. Because people can't understand the technology and the different way that you can use the technology. And so I think that's what we're saying here is going, if you can start to think kind of AI first, AI centric rather than a bolt on, there's huge benefits.
We've seen enough where we see, I don't know about you, I would say 40 to 60% of your job, most people's jobs, unless I would say even CEOs or C-suites, a lot of the job is repetitive, right? There's a lot of, I have to do this. And it's not because they do it because it's fun. It's because it makes the whole engine go. And if you take a look at that engine, and you take a look at that, hey, why do you do this? Everything's interconnected. It's like this person does this person does this to put this outcome. Like, for example, let's take reporting. You have one person who is kind of the sheep or the cat herder who has to talk to all these people and say, hey, I need that report. I need it for a master report. And then every single one of these people have to go into these systems or ask another person to go into these systems and extract the information, the analysis from the report. Every single month, I remember I had to do it for pretty much all companies, right? Every month, every quarter, you extract data from somewhere, kind of come up with your version of analysis, send it to someone else who rolls that into a massive report, gives it to a bunch of people, and then, that's how the leadership starts using that information to make the decision. But think about the task just that involves. All these people having to go into, I don't know, a Tableau, Power BI, sending emails, going back into their emails, going to file folders, literally trying to find all that information for that month, and then now times that by 6 or 7 just to get one master report in, or multiple reports that feed into a master then get sent up, right? So that entire process, the question we have is, hey, could you rebuild that process entirely with AI? And what would that look like now?
And again, I'm a bit older than you. I always tell these stories, but again, I saw this back in the late 1990s, where the old media companies, the television stations, the newspapers saw this new thing, the internet, and they thought, well, let's take our old model and shove it down the throats of the people on this new technology base. And they were still, they were
Yeah.
still showing 30-second commercials because that's what they were used to. And they thought it would work and it failed. And then you see companies like Google and Meta and others come up, and now they've taken all those dollars, and a lot of those old broadcasters are out of place. And I think that's what happens in business again. We take these old systems, and I can't agree with you more. I mean, and we encourage clients all the time to really break it down, but it's not easy. The reason a lot of people don't do it is it's pretty difficult to take a system that you've developed over 10, 15, 20, 30 years and try and rethink it AI first. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges. So people just go back to what they know because it's almost too much to think about.
Yeah.
How would it be AI centric?
If you go back to the reporting example, to unravel that all would mean impacting probably a process that has been perfected, quote unquote, with all these additions over 5, 10 years. So if the company's like, and every year there's always tweaks and adjustments to, oh, can you add this? Can you take that out? Whatever that is. So, but it's still the same basic report, right? And then let's take, for example, a company that wants to add AI to it. It's like, oh, if we're going to add AI to it, why doesn't it, we get it to write the report for us that we still send up? Or why doesn't it look at the data, but we're still putting it in the same deck and then sending it up? Or I'm going to drag and drop my spreadsheet and ask it to analyze it, a little bit more advanced use, and then, put that into a report and send it up. But what we're asking is, if you had to, like, that's just stopgaps. You're replacing a single task and putting AI to do that task instead of you, which I would want to do that because I don't want to be doing the analysis, or I don't want to do that, whatever that is. A reimagining of that whole workflow is that all these data sources are at a centralized location because AI is already pulling them in real time. And then every single department has some sort of AI agent to extract the information from that already. And it's running scheduled every quarter, every month, whenever you need it, that the actual analysis is being done. The only thing that have a human in the loop to double check it, and then it gets sent up to, it doesn't even get sent up. All that stuff is, once human approved, the AI, someone can then just take it to, say, a GenSpark or wherever, build the deck, save template,
Yeah.
and now so that whole thing is reimagined. But think about how many hours that would have been saved for every single person now, because they don't
You know
have to.
what? The challenge with that though, Carl, is that sounds great when you explain that all. I think one of the things we find though is that we don't get, in order for that to happen in any organization, you need complete buy-in.
Yeah.
Because if you've only got one person or one group who's pushing for it, you're going to run into challenges when you get to other departments or other individuals who don't agree with it, don't like it, don't understand it, haven't bought into the AI technology, and all of a sudden it's great for, let's say, the finance team to create an AI centric process, but then if they send it out to their field crews and the field crews don't want to do it, are too lazy, aren't technical enough, or intimidated by it, and they don't follow the process, then the whole system fails. So I think that's why when we talk about organizations as a whole buying into it, I think it truly is. You need everybody from the top leadership right down to, right through the ranks, for everybody to buy in order for some of these projects to work, to be completely AI centric.
Well, I think you're right too, because remember, one of our clients, even the simple task of doing a DocuSign, right? Of the 5 people that, you'd send a DocuSign to, one person still preferred to sign it by hand. So that whole updated process, automatically going 11111, that is destroyed by just one person wanting to do it by hand.
And that's that to me is, we always say it's not the technology that is the biggest hurdle. It's generally the humans and the change management that needs to take place. And so I think that's why, we can come in and we tell these great stories about what AI can do, but really it's important to get the buy-in from the people, from the humans in the loop, so they don't feel intimidated by it and they really see the upside and the benefits for themselves individually and for the company as a whole, which is where we're going to start to see more uptake.
Yeah. I think too, when we go into any of those businesses, that's why I really want to emphasize that, because we talk about, hey, we'll do this, but for you to compete, and we always say it's not your competitors who are necessarily that adopting AI, because it's going to be, you may one up them by a little bit, they might one up you a little bit. It's not that. It's the AI native full stack companies who are going to go, who have all these built-in advantages, right? They don't have any predefined workflows that they're adding to. Everything is built AI already,
Yeah.
and they have all that leverage, versus you're still trying to build it into your culture, your systems, and things like that too.
Well, again, I mean, Blockbuster had the market on the movie business, and Netflix came along and they stuck to their old guns and thinking people would still want to go and grab an actual disc, and they're out of business. And I think
Yeah.
that, same thing with, like I say, the Googles of the world. They're, billions and billions of dollars of revenue that used to go to old school companies that didn't adapt, didn't change, and their market was completely obliterated by newcomers. And I think that's what we're going to see in the future. And
Yeah.
it doesn't have to happen. There's lots of companies, if they're willing to buy, if they're willing to invest the time and energy and really get people on board, there's no reason why some of these current traditional companies that have been around for 100 years could be around for another 100 years. But they got to adapt. They got to change with the times. And I
Yeah.
think individuals have to change too, because again, like we see it a lot of times too, we have senior executives who bring us in and they give us to their mid-management team and they say, you guys go for it. And we're saying, well, what are you going to do to get yourself up to speed on AI? They're like, bah, I'm too old for that.
Yes.
It's got to be everybody.
Yeah.
It has to be
Yeah.
everybody. Otherwise there's going to be a weak link in the chain.
Yeah. Well, I also think too, the one thing that I'm sure people are thinking about would be, hey, if the AI if you rebuild something AI centric, what happens to my job? Where my job has been for maybe the longest time, I'm doing those mundane and repetitive tasks. Not that maybe I enjoy them, maybe not, but it's been part of my task. It's been part of the job. Part of the job is to do that. It's been built in my description. What we're saying is, no, 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 no. I think people are misguided in saying, oh, if AI is going to do this task, then I don't need that person for that task. But I think you have to have the perception too, is like, hold on a second, you hired someone to go into systems and pull reports out. And we're not talking analysis. You're hiring literally someone to just log into a system and download spreadsheets and put it into a deck. That is not a job. That's just a repetitive thing. I think any bright executive team would think, hey, now that all that other mundane stuff is being done by AI, we can really redeploy our people to make our business grow in ways that we haven't even thought of, because we didn't have time to think about. We had all this stupid repetitive work. I think that's where the better businesses would actually think, like, you know what, I can keep all my people because now these are the things that we can do, versus having them do stupid things every week, a report every quarter that takes, how many days, how many weeks to build out. And we haven't even thought about what they can do because we haven't had time, but now you can.
Well, so here's a call out to all of you out there that have boring, mundane, repetitive jobs. You are going to be replaced by AI in the near future. So go reskill and get educated, because it's going to happen. I mean, that's the fact of the matter is that AI is going to replace those boring, mundane, repetitive tasks in a workplace. And so if people don't, realize that and don't change or reskill or upskill, then yeah, you're going to be replaced. And I think I always use the analogy. I keep going back, but I mean, if you were a farrier 150 years ago and there's 1,000 farriers in town and you saw the automobile coming along, a lot of those guys might have went, hey, maybe I should go become an auto mechanic as opposed to sticking with the farrier business because there might be fewer farriers needed. And I think that's what's happening right now is people just, they, they, they stick their head in the sand and they ignore it. And so, yeah, there is a risk that you could be in a play. And I think companies have to make decisions based on finances. And I take a look right now at this silly Canada Post strike where they're losing $10 million a day. And so they go on strike and they're upset that they're going to lay people off. You can't operate a business losing $10 million a day. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. And I think that's the same thing with this new technology, is that companies need to stay competitive. So the quicker companies buy in, the quicker employees buy in, and you get this overall uptake in the technology, I think the better off companies are going to be to withstand future competitiveness.
And that actually is a perfect lead into the second part of the two elements that's important for really AI business transformation is it's really a change in it's a mind shift in how you use AI, right? And obviously the first thing that we want all companies to do is to train its employees, not just on the basics of AI, but like what are some of the full capabilities? Because there's still that gap between, oh, I'm going to use AI as a, to create my content, review my work, be a little bit of a thought partner, do some research for me. And that's all good and fine, right? AI is really good at that, but you can do so much more. But I don't think people have realized it, and it's not their fault because of how fast every single thing is moving, right? Like the list of, even if you're just on ChatGPT or Claude, if you click that plus button or the hamburger button or whatever the button it is for your app, all these tools suddenly come up. And even Sam Altman said of all the people who pay for ChatGPT, only 7% were using reasoning. And we're not even talking the tools. That's just the model switcher. So I think that's where the big piece is. Most people don't even know the capabilities. If you don't know what you don't know, then how can you think bigger on how to leverage AI, right?
Well, and you say it all the time. Like, I even find myself, like, sometimes I feel like I'm a rookie with AI because the technology is moving so quickly, and yet I use it every single day, and I know that I'm way more advanced than most people, but it's difficult to stay on top of it,
Yeah.
and you and I even talk about these new tools come out and there's only so much time in the day, and we try and get around to them, and we get around to a lot of them, but still, so imagine somebody who's not in the space, and we recognize that. But I guess that's kind of our message, is going, how can how can you help yourself, and how can people like us help educate yourself? And a lot of people wonder about how can they get educated on AI. Well, just start paying attention. You can use AI models to help you train. Obviously we do a lot of training for organizations and we can accelerate that knowledge, but I think it's just taking a general interest is the first starting point for people.
And once you have a little bit of the basics, because I think everybody, a lot of I remember back in 2022 or late 2022, 2023, all these prompting courses came out for $100. You buy prompt package and stuff. And obviously that's kind of crazy. And a lot of the stuff you can already get for free, YouTube, Udemy, whatever it is. I think it goes beyond that because it's a bit of a mind shift. So, hey, I'll give you an example, right? We're working with one company. The director says there, hey, my prompts aren't working, right? Or it's not giving me accurate because he's doing some calculations and whatnot. So I told him, hey, the most typical way of fixing that or trying to diagnose this, like, hey, let's start a new thread, regenerate the response, or maybe update the prompt. There has to be something with the prompt. But you know what you could do? You do have like a 130, 150 IQ'd thing there. Why don't you ask it to help you come up with the proper prompt and why it came up with the wrong answer? So usually what you would do is like you'd point out to your large language model of choice, hey, you got the wrong answer for this. And then you'd say the most accurate answer is this. Now he was more talking about like trying to compare a set of data and come up with like CTRs and whatever. But then when you ask an LM, hey, why did you get it wrong? Here's the right answer. The LM will actually think about it and like come up with like, oh, this is why. And then after that, what I've done in the past is like, hey, here's my prompt. How would you update my prompt so that it can come up with the right answer? And then how many times that I've gotten an updated prompt, rerun it, and it came up with the right answer because the LM kind of corrected itself, helped me with the prompt. That may sound like a more complicated use case, but that's kind of the mind shift that I'm talking about, where like that's how you've got to start thinking about using it, where you're asking it to correct itself, then how do you prompt it and then rerun the prompt, right? It isn't like a Google search where you're like, oh, I'm gonna just do another Google search. I must have done something wrong. Like you have to interact with it in a very unique way.
In a unique way, but in some respects, to dummy it down, it's almost like have a bit of a conversation with it. I didn't get the right response. Can you give me another prompt? Why did you get the like? I find that is it, and I think that that's where, again, you don't have to be, a seasoned AI technologist to come up with the proper prompts. Like you say, if you could just get comfortable with
Mhm.
using the technology and understanding how you can get those answers. Because again, we always talk about this, right? Some people go, "Well, I didn't get the right response on the first crack, so this technology doesn't work."
There's so many examples or analogies like, oh, think of it as if you're talking to another employee or a really super smart but really green intern, right? So like what would you do when you're like, oh, your intern comes back with an inaccurate report and be like, oh, um, that's inaccurate. This is how to get that. And then when I look at your output and how you did it, you just change this and you always get it done. You always get it right. That's literally what we're doing here. But I think it's very difficult for some people to equate that into this thing. And I think like and this is why I'm kind of big on, schools, you got to allow kids to use it because if you don't, this is all the stuff that they come up with, right? Like all the cool stuff that then they can take into the workplace where we see a lot of the dinosaurs still like not sure how to use it. That's where you'll get the influx of it. So a couple of questions for you when you're talking about your AI implementations or AI education or your business is thinking about it. So what are your processes right now, even if you're adding AI that you've just implemented or put in AI as a stopgap into an entire process? And could you rebuild those processes to be entirely AI centric? And the second question is, if your team had 40% more time, right? Don't think about, oh, I'm going to not need that person. How would you actually redeploy that person into a different role or ask them to do different tasks or maybe think about it from your business? How would you redefine your business to make it grow? Learn more about future AI business trends by watching these videos here. Want to learn how AI can impact your business? Then please subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching. I'm going to catch you next time.